Hello, Anada. This is Jeff Allen in the Paris suburbs, and I just saw your post on the TCLoc Masters there in Strasbourg, and that one of the students, Blaise, had done done the masters specifically on language technology initiatives for low resource languages, and that it looks at how industry giants like Meta, Facebook, Google, and Taos are trying to address the need for low resource languages. And that's my background, actually, both in the corporate world, because I work at SAP. I've been here for 16 years, but also because my master's, my doctoral studies in Lyon were on Creole languages and African languages. So in linguistics. So I've got a science du langage. That's my background, my first studies in French before that. But I've spent a lot of time over the past 4 decades working on some of these low resource languages, what do you want to call them, and creating technologies for them. And so it's interesting to see that you mentioned how these big giants are doing it, and Microsoft and I, well, actually, it was all of them. The first language, the first low resource language that was ever really put into any of these online systems are treated by these industrial, big companies, IT companies or software companies, you want to call them, was Haitian Creole, and I was the one that helped that had to happen because I had already developed the system at Carnegie Mellon University 12 years before we did in 2010 when the earthquake happened and took place in Haiti, and so it was time to do something. And I had already developed the system. I had already had 2 years of data that we collected and curated, and I gave a talk at Microsoft in their Microsoft lecture series. It's called the Microsoft Research Lectures, and in 2010 in August. And you can just look it up, just Jeff Allen, Microsoft Creole, look it up and you can find the video on the internet. I don't have to give the link. It's pretty easy to find. And there I gave over a 90-minute talk to whoever wanted to come, which a number of people flew there, to address where were the challenges, were back then in 2010, which still are because they haven't changed. They really are the same challenges today, despite the increase of technology, the better technology we have. What are those challenges to put these low resource languages into software applications, but online, especially the online one is the hardest. Let's call it SaaS too. I mean, anything that is not small and locally installed, which also has its own problems, because there are all kinds of little there are ways to do this, and that moment in time was the pivotal moment where we saw, if you look previously at the online systems, and I was the technical director, the CTO of ELDA and ELRA, the European Language and Resources Association, that actually is the warehouse for all these linguistic databases for all the systems that we train, and people buy those databases, right? The companies and universities and research institutions, they buy these databases. So I had that role back in late 1990s and the early 2000s. And so I've got a background producing databases for major languages and minority languages, in addition to the things I've just explained. And to create those databases and to have them for the technologies that have been around, well, even the older technology, the rule-based technologies, was already a challenge because of the cost. I worked at Systran too, so I know what the costs are to be able to put a rule-based system in place, and then put a statistical system in place, and then to put the neural type technologies into place. And they need to have databases or language resources, what we call them, that are sufficient enough, that are curated enough for the first kind of round, because you need to have really good data, curated data, and really good data to start with. You don't want to introduce polluted data into it, and that's what happened in 2010 actually with Microsoft and Google when we had the developed all these online systems, because the first round was done. The first round with that was done with the data that I provided, which was curated. It was already clean. But what happened was when Microsoft to get back to me during the implementation, it took 5 days to do it, right? And they had actually used other data, and it was creating different translations than what I had on the original system that we used the data on. And I said, you polluted the data. And what happened is they had used other data from SMSs they were huge. There was a whole initiative to curate SMS texts of people there in Haiti that were stuck in elevators and trying to ask for help and all that. And there was a number of reasons that the introduction of polluted data caused problems with that. So the low resource languages have there's a huge gap, and it's not just the amount of the data, which is already a problem. It's a low amount of data that's available for, and I did several languages. We did Haitian Creole, we did Korean, we did some of these low resource languages that the projects I was working on at Carnegie Mellon were about. Because we're looking forward to the languages of the future, not the current languages. So we were working on those that were all low resource at the time. And the biggest problem is not the data. The biggest problem is the number of spelling orthographies that are different, the orthographical systems and spelling systems that are different that are in each of these languages. That can be. And this has been documented in different places, different publications too. So it's not, I'm not the only one saying it. And so in Haitian Creole, we had between 11 and 14 known orthographies, right? And I'm not talking about the hybrid versions. So that creates a huge problem when you're trying to create a system, because if you're using data from different sources, you're going to have potentially different spellings of many different words, and you don't want to start with that. You want to start with something that's clean, it's been harmonized. Then you can introduce other types of data that have the variants, and you can try to treat those variants. But this is a big problem, and it's been a long, interesting journey of helping many different organizations and institutions try to do this over the past 40 years, and to talk about these challenges. And I'm not even going to go into sociolect registers and all that. That's a whole nother thing, and I've been asked to do that in some projects. But that's another thing. It's fun. It's great. It's just that these are things that we are challenged with about 6,000 to 7,000 dialects and languages in the world today that continue to exist and continue to survive, because there were many more before. So, and with only 1,000 of those that actually have some kind of written publications about them, or grammars or something that describes these languages, there's only about 1,000, a little bit more than 1,000 out of 6,000 to 7,000. So that's a big challenge, and having just anything as simple as a spell checker is something that be great to see that, and then 1,000 more, right, before I move on to past this life. But we've got we're seeing improvements, and the big industrial partners, big industry giants are getting to it. Mainly the ones that offer information for free. So Taos is mainly mainly a company that's set up to help these other ones do it, including like SAP and SB, we treat up to 100 languages, right? We can translate our content into up 100 languages. We got about 8 that are main ones, 4 main ones necessary, up to 8 that can be budgeted all every time you put out a new product, and needs to be in that small number. Up to about 49 can be budgeted specifically if you ask for it, if you want the content of the user manual or things to be done, all online. It could be all online in PDFs. And we can do it up to 100 languages. So we've got a number of conference talks that have been presented by several of my colleagues. Sometimes I do give them as well, but it's a huge challenge, and we've got teams here. I've been part of the machine translation team here at SAP. and but some of the speech technologies as well. And what we're trying to do is to cover it in all the different applications that are done across many different industries. That's the challenge. That's a big challenge for a company like SAP, because it's not just a software application, right? It's some of these. There we've got when you have 2,000, we have 2,000 software applications at SAP, and that's a huge range across all kinds of fields, sectors, vertical sectors, and vertical industries, and and when you've got 30 different industries that you're covering with this many verticals, it's a challenge because you're addressing needs in very specific business cases, and I'm not thinking of the government needs, right? So, and that's what you're doing when you're dealing with large companies that are meeting that. Now, the major players here, like Meta and Google, they are, they're online, so they're mass audiences, and they're generic. They're not really customized unless they have specific projects they're working on behind the scenes, but that's usually not seen very much. So it's a different world, and everyone is struggling with the same thing: how to address the how to have something that's generic enough that it covers many needs, and have it specific enough and customized enough to meet specific needs. And these are things that are not so easy to do, and it's great that see students that are taking this on. I'm always looking for students too that want to take on, and I want to pass the baton on as well to those that want to take it, for their lifetime, because I'm not going to be able to continue doing. I'm always looking for my successors, right? To want to take on what I've done. So not just at work, but just in general. So it's exciting times right now with how the generative AI movement is moving it forward, with revealing the need for this and revealing the need to work on these, how languages are important. So thanks for that, and hope to catch up soon on this topic and others.